In the book, I talk about using a waitlist, a strategic intake process, and an on-off season for client acceptance. So let's go ahead and dive into each of these and look at how they can work together to elevate your acquisition process by actually creating a little bit of constriction to make it feel selective and thus position you as a high status business. So we're going to start top down here. So overarching strategy and then getting into the tactics. First is the on-off season. This is really meant to achieve a couple of things. One, it allows you to use urgency and FOMO as tactics. Two, it allows you to work in cycles, which lets you more effectively iterate on your program by incorporating customer feedback to each successive cohort. And third, it inherently creates a limit or a cap on the number of people who can invest. And so the way that you want to think about really planning this out, first of all, is to make the decision to do it, to run your business in a cyclical fashion like this. Secondly is planning. So choosing the schedule to implement it. This is largely dependent on your actual product or program. For example, some people have a 3-day intensive where they promote it for an entire quarter, but which actually only lasts 72 hours for the program itself. Some people might have a 2-month cohort, which they promote in 4-month increments, operating on a sort of 6-month revolving cycle. The whole idea here is to be open for enrollment for a period of time, but then to close your doors for the term of the program. Your closed period does not have to be long. I talk about this in the book. It doesn't even have to be the entire length of your program if you don't want it to be. For example, if you have a 10-week course, you can close your doors for new acceptance for the first 5 weeks of that, then reopening them halfway through for your next group. It's less about the length of time that you remain closed and more about the fact that you have a closed season, which again, opens up the opportunity to market that closure. I follow a guy named 𝗕𝗢𝗢𝗢𝗡. He has a brand called 𝗕𝗟𝗢𝗢𝗓𝗡, and he runs a staggered on-off intake model for his coaching group. He promotes the fact that doors are closing on a certain date on his landing pages, in his calls to action, and on his podcast, urging his listeners to sign up or have to wait until the next round before starting. So this point is really about marketing, messaging, and dropping in those cues to your audience. Then we get into the intake form. There's multiple options here. Typeform is one of the more well-known tools. I explain the strategy of the form itself in the book using a standard or a fragmented style. So I will omit that here, but the idea as it relates to the on-off season is to essentially use your form as you normally would during open season. So collecting only the most vital information about the prospect, either automatically approving them for a call schedule or decoupling the form from a notification that you would send to them that they've been approved for a consult session. Then when you go heads down into your group, you're going to quote unquote close your intake. This does not mean that you aren't accepting applications. You're just not actively accepting new clients. So what you can do is use your same form, but just change the wording on the landing page to join the waitlist, or even keeping it as an application form, getting submissions, but then funneling those people into a waitlist, which would just be like an email sequence dedicated to nurturing this specific segment in a standalone sequence. On the form, you'd want to detach it from your calendar since you're technically not taking new signups, but add language to the effect of sign up here to join the waitlist. We're opening back up in 5 weeks. Your application will be received and reviewed by the team once we open back up, and we'll reach out if it makes sense to talk more. This totally changes up the energy dynamic of the traditional client intake process, which is the entire reason that we implement it in the first place. With the waitlist itself, you'll have a list of names conceivably that you can then research and reach out to when the time is right. And you can insert those people, as I mentioned, into an automated email sequence after they submit. So this will require you to connect your form during close season to an email sequence that warms those people up, sharing, for example, previous client wins, photos from prior cohorts, and more about your hero's journey to effectively set the stage and get those people salivating to enroll when you open your doors back up. Once you open back up, or even a little bit beforehand, you can actually start reaching out to these people directly, setting up a call, informing them that they've been selected to jump to the front of the line and get signed up for the next program starting in 10 weeks or however many weeks. Okay, this is how you run an open closed season with an intake form and a waitlist.